When I was in 10th grade, our school welcomed a new English teacher, Mr. Scott. He was young, only 24 years old, with dark hair, kind brown eyes, and a smile that could light up a room. It didn't take long for him to become the talk of the school. All the girls, including me, were captivated by him. During breaks, they would walk past his classroom just to catch a glimpse of him. Even the other teachers admired him, though he remained professional and focused on his work. I was one of those girls who admired him from afar. I thought he was the best teacher in the world. I never missed his classes and always made sure to complete my homework on time. But unlike some of my classmates who would joke with him or ask silly questions, I was too shy to do anything more than listen attentively and work hard. Sometimes I'd wear my favourite dress to his lessons, hoping he'd notice me. When he called on me in class, my heart would race and my hands would shake, but I always answered his questions because I wanted to impress him. Mr. Scott was always kind to me. He'd smile and say, "Good job, Emma," whenever I did well, and those words would make my entire day. For a whole year I couldn't stop thinking about him. He even appeared in my dreams at night. I was completely infatuated. One day, I found out where Mr. Scott lived. His house was near my neighborhood, and I started walking past it, hoping to see him. Sometimes I'd get lucky. He'd smile and say hello, and I'd feel like I was floating on air. But if he was with friends, I'd feel a pang of jealousy, wishing I could be the one by his side. When I moved to 11th grade, something devastating happened. Mr. Scott left the school. He had gotten a new job in another city. I was heartbroken. I missed him so much that I even walked past his old house, hoping to catch a glimpse of him. But he was gone. Time passed and I began preparing for my university exams. I joined extra English classes to improve my skills, and on the first day, I couldn't believe my eyes. Mr. Scott was the teacher. My heart leapt with joy. He smiled and said, "Welcome back, Emma." For 6 months I worked hard in his class, becoming one of his best students. Sometimes we'd stay after class to talk. He'd ask me about my plans for the future and I'd ask him about his new job. One day he offered to walk me home. I was surprised but overjoyed. After that, he often walked me home, and I felt like the luckiest girl in the world. Our relationship grew closer. We started spending more time together, going to the park, watching movies, and talking for hours. I still remember our first kiss. It felt like a dream. I thought Mr. Scott was the perfect man, but life had other plans. One day, Mr. Scott told me he had a new job offer in another country. He had to move to the USA. I was heartbroken. We promised to write letters to each other, and for a while we stayed in touch. I waited eagerly for his letters every week, but over time they became fewer and farther between. I started college, and life got busy. Eventually, we lost touch. 8 years passed. One day, I found Mr. Scott on a social media site. My heart raced as I sent him a message, and to my delight, he replied. We decided to meet at a cafe. I was excited but nervous. I dressed nicely and arrived at the cafe, my heart pounding. When I saw him, I was surprised. He looked different, older with a few extra pounds, and less of the youthful charm I remembered. His hair wasn't as dark, and his eyes didn't sparkle the way they used to. We talked for hours, catching up on each other's lives, but something felt off. He wasn't the same person I had loved as a teenager. After the meeting, I thought about him a lot. I remembered the young, handsome teacher who had made me so happy in school. But I realized that my feelings had changed. We grow up, we change, and what was important to us before isn't always important now. The next day, I looked at old photos from school. There were pictures of my friends, my teachers, and even Mr. Scott. I smiled as I flipped through them, remembering those beautiful days. But now my life was different. I was a grown woman with a job, new friends, and new dreams. A week later, I received a message from Mr. Scott. "It was nice meeting you," he wrote. "I hope we can stay friends." I replied, "Thank you, Mr. Scott. It was nice seeing you too. I wish you all the best." We talked a little more, but I knew it was time to move on. One evening, I walked in the park near my house. It started to rain, and I remembered the time Mr. Scott had walked me home in the rain. I smiled to myself. Life is like rain. Sometimes it feels cold and sad, but it also helps new flowers grow. I still think about Mr. Scott sometimes, but now I feel happy when I do. He was a part of my story, but he wasn't the end of it. Life is full of surprises. It brings new people and new dreams into our lives. And sometimes the best moments come when we least expect them. Looking back, I realize how much I've grown since those days in 10th grade. Mr. Scott was my first love, and he taught me important lessons about life, love, and letting go. I'll always cherish the memories, but I'm also grateful for the person I've become. If there's one thing I've learned from this journey, it's that life is constantly changing. People come and go, and that's okay. What matters is how we grow from those experiences and how we choose to move forward. To anyone out there who's holding on to a past love or a memory, I want you to know this. It's okay to let go. It's okay to cherish the past while embracing the present. Life is full of beautiful surprises, and sometimes the best is yet to come.